Hey everyone, welcome back to Rhythm Railroad. This is another video on my CATS dispatcher panel, and today we're going to be tracking trains. So what I'm doing right now is I'm right-clicking on the segment where I want the train to start tracking. The occupied block to the left is the southern side of the layout, and the right is northern side. So this is a northbound train. As you can see, I selected the train. It's a grain train, and now I'm selecting the crew by right-clicking on the number of the tag. Similarly, on my southbound train, I'm selecting the train. In this case, it's a tank train. So you'll see me click on that. And then when you right click once again on the label, you'll select a different crew or the same, depending on what you want to do. I want you to notice that the number that shows up as a tag is the company name and then the lead locomotive. Now, you don't have to do it that way. You could also select it as a train name, like let's say, XYZ 23 or whatever it is you want to label it. But I decided to go with the lead locomotive. It just helps, spot things easier for me. So right now I'm setting the route for the northbound train. As you can see, I selected the turnouts on the main line there, and I've also given myself the signals required for that path. And the signal logic happens automatically on CATS. Similarly, on the southbound train, I'm doing the same thing by clicking, once I select the diverging route there at Fort Edward, I selected the signals. Now what you see here is on the left side is the northbound train, and on the right side is the southbound train. So you'll see that these labels that were made track blocks as the train moves. So this is actually, all synced up. It's 2 GoPro cameras, one on each train, and then I just did a screen recording of the CATS panel in real time. So everything here is happening at the same time. You're gonna notice that as we enter the next block, I'm gonna just use my mouse to kind of point at them as we go. So you'll see my mouse going back and forth, so you can notice what's doing what. But the idea here is that we're gonna meet at Fort Edward. Whoever gets there first is gonna have to wait for the other train to pass. But in this case, I believe the grain train gets there first and waits on the main for the tank train to come by on the siding. The other occupied blocks that you see here on the dispatcher panel are other trains that are sitting on other tracks throughout the layout. So just ignore those. The little blue square that you see right above Saratoga Springs, that is representing a station, in this case Saratoga Springs Station, and there is a train sitting on that station siding, so that's why you see that's occupied. So now as you can see, the labels are starting to move. We entered the turnout, and then immediately after the turnout, which is a short block, we entered the first part of the 3-block sequence there on the main line. More about why that sequence, why I had to make that 3 blocks. I theoretically didn't have to make it 3 blocks, but I wanted to for a reason. That's just we're going to talk more about that in another video that's more specific to that station. So now we're about to come down from the helix on the right side there with the tank train heading south, and we're going to enter Ticonderoga, which we just did right there. So you can see the labels track automatically. I'm not clicking on anything. It's just I'm just trying to point out with the mouse what's going on. And what I love about CATS is that it tells you can see clearly where the train's going with the green segments with the arrowheads. So it's very easy for a dispatcher that's never dispatched my layout to see exactly what is happening at the time. The other thing I want you to notice is that as the trains move through the blocks, the signals obviously drop to red, and when you see them in white, that's by default a CTC, halt or stop aspect. So it's anything with white signals is basically red over red or all red. As far as tracking, the initial block detection when you enter the next sequential block is the one that the label is going to go to. But it also knows which direction you're traveling in if you have a route set in the green block. So The only way the label would jump the other way, like right now you see the flashing going on. The reason why that's flashing is because some cars have detection, some cars have resistors and others don't. So there's like, you know, gaps in the train. But if you notice, the label did not move back just because it was flashing like that. Now, if you didn't have a route selected, it would move back. It's not as consistent when you don't have a route selected. But as long as anything is happening behind the label, it doesn't matter. What matters is the initial detection at the front of the train. That's what gets the label to move, just like you did there on that turnout. Now this turnout is obviously not that long, so it's going to shoot up to the next block. There you go. And now we're approaching a red signal right here. So that's where you're going to see that even though it's a long track segment, the train on the left side is going to start to slow down on the camera because we're approaching that signal. And as we come down with the southbound train, we just cross over the turnout there at CP transfer, and now we're in that middle block there, and we're about to, you know, have a meet here. Now the cameras I set up on the left train, which is the grain train, I set it up all the way in the back of the train. With the tank train, I put it kind of in the middle of the train. I think the next time I do this, I might just put it in the front. I just didn't want to have like a flat car in the front of the train. It looked kind of silly. But you'll see that, you know, now we're really slowing down on the left side with the grain train when we come to a halt. And, you know, the tank train right now is passing right by that CP 9300 train, which is what the label is indicating. So there we go. There's the meet right there with the camera. Obviously, the locomotives are about 10 cars up or more. So we're in the middle of the block right now. We're about to enter the crossover, the midway point with the tank train, as you can see right there. And that's a short block, so you'll see it jump over like that. We'll be here for a little bit, but while this is going on, the next step would be, now, you know, once the tank train clears, it would be to, you know, you can see the train just crossing over there, or actually meeting the other camera right there. But now the idea is that we want to get the grain train moving north, or continuing on its journey north. So we're going to go ahead and change the turnout now that we know that that block is clear. And once we give the route, then we can click on the signals to, you know, give the engineer clearance or you know, permission to continue. So now, you know, the grain train is going to continue all the way up to the helix, which is Mount Cuba, and vice versa with the other train is going to end up where we started from with the grain train. So the tank train is going to end up down at Ballston Spa. So you can see it's still tracking beautifully. I want you to notice also that, you know, when you're going through a siding, the block only shows the siding part of it, as long as that route is indicated. If it's not, then the entire turnout shows up as red or occupied. So right now we're making our way down into Saratoga Springs with the tank train. We just entered that turnout, and now we got the 3-block sequence. There's one, and you'll see the other one shortly. On the other side, the train heading north is in the middle of Whitehall right now, and we're about to enter Ticonderoga up at the top. And you know, the transfer, well, the transfer yard that you see there, which is in Whitehall, is quite long, so it's going to take a minute to get over into the next block for the turnout. And then you can see here on the left we're making progress. We're about to jump into that other short block on the southern side. And I'm really glad the cameras are working correctly, because sometimes my GoPros like to turn off in the middle of you know, something like this, and it's hard to control that once you're on the train. But you're going to see now that we've entered Ticonderoga with the grain train, and we're about to get going to the helix. Ticonderoga is not that long of a section, but you know, I would say it's probably about, I don't know, 2 feet, 3 feet, no, maybe a little longer, maybe like 4 feet. So there we go. We just entered the helix. The helix is quite long, so you know, it's going to obviously be there. But either way, we're going to stop it in the middle of the helix, So we can wrap everything up while that train waits there. The reason I'm stopping at the helix is because you can see that the next turnout on the north side is gray, is shown as gray, which means that it hasn't been wired up yet or assigned an address. So when you don't have an address assigned to a block, what happens is it doesn't know how to identify it, so the label will not go into that block, and then it kind of screws up the sequence if if it doesn't have an address. So waiting to wire that up. I just had to figure out the reversing section and how I'm going to do that with detection. So I think we're entering, we just entered the last block, which is Balta Spa, on the right side with the tank train. You can see that the left side grain train is slowing down now, and we're just going to wait pretty much like in the helix while the tank train makes its way past the bridges and past the crossing. You can hear the bells going off. The crossing is actually right here. It's coming up right there. And, it's just everything's working pretty well. And I'm really happy with the way CATS is coming along now. I'm still learning a lot. Every day I seem to pick up on something new. But, for the most part, what I wanted CATS for was this exact situation. I wanted to be able to route trains and then have the labels or the identification of each train follow automatically, rather than having to make a label and drag it along like I was doing with Panel Pro. And like I said, I'm sure there's a way to do this with JMRI, so since I'm not trying to bash JMRI here, but I like the way this looks better, and I think it's just more user-friendly. When you're trying to just get simple dispatching figured out for an operation session. So we're about to come to a halt on the right side with the tank train. So we're approaching that signal at the bottom of the hill there. You see the locomotive is right about to get to that signal bridge, and that's basically going to be it. So yeah, everything's tracking really well. I'm happy with the way it's starting to look on the panel. Some of the labels I'm not crazy about, but that's not that important. So all right, so we're going to leave it there. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope this helps to get you inspired if you're thinking about CATS and dispatcher panel with CATS. Take care.